Hey everyone, welcome back. Before we get going, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more content just like this. Okay, so today we're talking about the future of the Pittsburgh Steelers backfield. More specifically, their star running back, Najee Harris.
Yeah, it's an interesting situation for sure. He's coming off, his best season since his rookie year, and the guy has been a model of consistency and durability. But at the same time, the team has some other big questions to answer, and Harris's next contract could have huge implications for their overall strategy.
For sure. I mean, it's like a real balancing act right now for the Steelers.
Yeah.
It's like, do they want to commit major money to a running back, especially in an era where so many teams are moving towards a committee approach?
And you can't forget the financial side of things. A long-term deal for Harris would absolutely eat up a big chunk of their salary cap. So is that money better spent addressing other needs, like the offensive line needs help, the defense could use some work too?
Yeah, that's the big question, isn't it? I mean, is paying top dollar for a running back the way to go for the Steelers? Or should they maybe explore some other options?
It's tough to say. I mean, the Steelers have always been a team that values a strong running game, and Harris definitely fits that mold. He's shown he can handle a heavy workload and be a consistent producer.
But there's also the argument that running backs are kind of becoming increasingly replaceable in today's NFL, right?
Yeah.
It seems like the league is shifting towards these pass-heavy offenses, and we're seeing teams find success with a committee approach in the backfield.
That's true. And don't forget about Jaylen Warren. He's shown potential. If Harris were to leave, maybe Warren is ready to step up. He's a restricted free agent, so the Steelers have some decisions to make there too.
Yeah, it's interesting you bring up Warren because he's a real wild card in this whole thing. Could he be the guy? Could he be the future of the Steelers backfield? Or is he more of a complementary piece?
Well, the Steelers are going to have to take a good look at him. Does he have the potential to be a lead back? Is he better suited for a shared role? I think his performance next season will tell us a lot.
Right. And it's not just about Warren's potential. It's about the money, too.
Yeah.
The Steelers have to think about the financial implications of keeping both of them. Could they afford to pay both? And would that even be the smartest move?
Yeah, it's a tough equation. They got to balance their desire for a strong running game with the need to address other areas of the team. And of course, you have to think about what Harris wants too. Is he willing to take a little less to stay in Pittsburgh? Or is he going to go after the biggest contract he can get, even if it means leaving?
There's a lot at stake for both sides. Harris wants to get paid what he deserves, and the Steelers want to build a championship team. And, their decisions are going to have a ripple effect for years to come.
Absolutely. The Steelers are at a crossroads. Their decisions on Harris and Warren are going to tell us a lot about their philosophy and their vision for the future.
No doubt. It's a really fascinating dilemma and one that's got Steelers fans on the edge of their seats, I think.
For sure. One thing's for sure, they've got some tough choices to make. Okay, so let's take a deeper look at the different scenarios they're facing right now.
All right, let's break down the financial implications of each option. They could re-sign him to a long-term deal, let him test free agency, or even think about using the franchise tag.
Yeah, the franchise tag is always a possibility, but it would come with a pretty hefty price tag. Like we're talking $13.6 million. And that's a serious investment for a running back, especially considering, their other needs.
Yeah, it's a tough pill to swallow for sure. But let's not forget what Art Rooney II said about the whole situation.
Yeah, he's been pretty careful not to say too much. He knows the running back position is important. He's praised Harris's talent, but he's also made it clear that Harris will have other options.
Sounds like there could be a little bit of a standoff brewing.
It's definitely possible. I mean, the Steelers obviously value Harris, but they have to be smart about their cap space. And Harris knows what he's worth. He's coming off a great season. He's super durable, and he's been the heart of their offense.
Yeah, he's got some leverage in this situation, that's for sure.
He does, and that's what makes this so interesting.
It's a classic situation of you've got a talented player, he's reached a crossroads in his career, he wants to get paid, and the team has to figure out if they're all in on him long term.
Exactly. It's a balancing act. They have to weigh their loyalty to him against, the need to build a competitive team, and they're doing it in a league where the value of a running back is constantly being debated.
It's a really complex situation with no easy answers. So let's take a closer look at Harris's performance and see if we can get a better idea of what he might be worth on the open market.
Okay, good idea. Let's start with his production. He just had his fourth straight 1,000-yard season, which is incredibly impressive. That kind of consistency is hard to find.
Absolutely. And on top of that, he's only missed one game in his whole career. And, that kind of durability is invaluable in the NFL.
Yeah, it is. And you can tell that Mike Tomlin really values that. He's been really vocal about how much he appreciates Harris, his toughness, his consistency, and his leadership.
Yeah, it's clear that Tomlin wants to keep him in Pittsburgh, but ultimately it might come down to a clash between what the coaches want and the financial reality.
That's a really good point.
It's a fascinating dynamic. You've got a coach who loves his player, a player who's playing at a high level, and a team that's trying to figure out how to win a championship.
That's right. It's a story with a lot of layers, and we're just starting to peel them back.
All right, so we've talked about his performance, his potential contract, the Steelers' other needs.
Yeah, we have. We've covered a lot.
But the big question is, has he done enough to deserve a big contract? That's what it all comes down to, right?
That's the question I keep coming back to.
Because let's be real, they haven't exactly been setting the world on fire in the playoffs.
That's true. They haven't been to the Super Bowl since 2010.
So is he the missing piece? Can he get them over the hump? Or are they better off investing their money in something else?
It's a really tough call. There are strong arguments on both sides.
Absolutely. And it's not just about his individual performance. It's about the whole picture. You know, they got to evaluate their needs, their cap situation, their long-term goals.
Yeah, exactly. It's not a decision they can make without considering all those things.
Okay, so let's get into those other factors. Starting with their other needs, as we've said, they've got some holes to fill on both sides of the ball.
Yeah, they do. They need help on the offensive line, and the defense could use an upgrade.
Let's start with that offensive line. It's pretty obvious they've had trouble protecting the quarterback and opening up running lanes.
Right, and that puts even more pressure on Harris to make something happen out of nothing.
Exactly. So if you're going to pay him big money, they got to make sure they're investing in the guys blocking for him too.
You got a strong offensive line is key for any running back to have success.
And then there's the defense. They've been pretty average the last few years, and they could definitely use some more talent.
They could, especially if they want to compete with the best teams in the AFC.
Exactly. So the Steelers have some tough decisions to make. They have limited resources, and they have to figure out how to use them in a way that gives them the best chance to win.
That's right. It's all about balance. They need to build a complete team, not just focus on one star player.
Which brings us back to the big question. Is paying Najee Harris top dollar the best way to do that? Or should they spread the money around and address multiple needs?
Yeah, that's the question that only the Steelers can answer, but it's going to have a huge impact on their future.
It's a question that's going to keep us all talking for a while.
You can say that again?
So we've talked about a lot. Harris's performance, his contract, the Steelers' other needs.
We've covered a lot of ground.
But here's a thought that keeps coming back to me. Does keeping Najee Harris make the Steelers a better team? Does it actually get them closer to winning the Super Bowl?
That's the ultimate question, and it's not an easy one to answer.
Because there's no guarantee that paying him a lot of money is going to lead to more wins.
It's definitely a gamble, and there are risks on both sides.
If they pay him and he doesn't live up to expectations, they're stuck.
And if they let him go and he becomes a star somewhere else, they'll never hear the end of it.
Tough spot to be in, but that's the NFL for you.
They have to make the decision that they think gives them the best chance to build a winning team.
And that might mean making a tough choice. You know, one that goes against their usual way of doing things.
It might mean embracing a new way of thinking about the running back position.
A new era where they might have to redefine their identity.
It's a really interesting time for the franchise, and the decisions they make now will have an impact for years to come.
It's fascinating to think about.
Yeah.
So to wrap this up, is Najee Harris a luxury or a necessity for the Steelers?
That's the million-dollar question, and only the Steelers can answer it, but it's a question that the whole league is watching.
It's a question that's going to define their offseason and maybe even their future.
Let's think about this from a different angle. Like, what does this decision say about the Steelers' philosophy? I mean, they're known for that, smash mouth, run first style.
Like their trademark.
Yeah.
Right. But is it possible that they're kind of stuck in the past? I mean, the league is changing. Offenses are throwing the ball more than ever.
Yeah, that's the big debate these days, right? Like, is it smart to spend a ton of money on a running back? Or is that a luxury that teams just can't afford anymore?
And it's not just about league trends. It's about the players they have.
Right.
We talked about Warren, but what about their quarterback? Do they have a guy who can really make the passing game go?
That's another key piece of the puzzle. If they believe in their quarterback and think he can run a more pass-heavy offense, then maybe they don't feel like they have to break the bank for a running back.
So it might not be about Harris as much as it's about how the Steelers see their offense as a whole.
I think you're right. It's about deciding what kind of team they want to be moving forward. Do they want to be that ground and pound team that controls the clock? Or do they want to be more explosive, more dynamic on offense?
And whatever they decide will probably determine what happens with Harris. If they think the run game is the key, then yeah, re-signing him makes sense. But if they're leaning towards a pass-first offense, then maybe they should use their money somewhere else.
Exactly. It's all about making sure your players fit your overall plan.
It's like trying to put a puzzle together. All the pieces have to fit just right.
And the Steelers are trying to figure out where Harris fits into that puzzle.
And it's a decision that's going to have a huge impact. It's not just about this year or next year. It's about the direction of the franchise.
You got it. These are the tough decisions, the ones that can make or break a team.
Okay, so let's say for a second that they let Harris walk. What does that say to the rest of the league? Does it look like they're not serious about winning?
It definitely sends a message. It says they're thinking about the future more than the present, that they're okay with maybe taking a step back now to build something for the long term.
But is that the right move? I mean, especially in Pittsburgh, where everyone expects them to be contenders every year.
Oh, yeah, the fans there have high expectations, and they deserve to. They've seen a lot of winning over the years.
That's why this is such a huge decision. It's bigger than just money. It's about who they are as a team.
Yeah.
It's a message to the players, the fans, everybody.
It's about making a statement about what they believe in and what they stand for.
Okay, so let's zoom out for a minute. We've talked about the money, the philosophy, the pressure to win.
Yeah, we've been all over the place.
But here's the question that I keep coming back to. Does having Najee Harris on the team actually make the Steelers better? Does it get them closer to a Super Bowl?
That's what they need to figure out. And it's a really tough question.
Because there's no guarantee that just because you pay him a lot of money, that means you're going to win more games.
It's a risk no matter what they do.
If they pay him and he has a down year, they're in trouble.
And if they don't pay him and he goes somewhere else and kills it, they'll never live it down.
It's a tough spot to be in, but that's the business, I guess.
They just got to make the best decision they can, the one that gives them the best chance to win in the long run.
And that might mean doing something different.
Right.
Something that goes against their history.
It might mean accepting that the running back position just isn't as important as it used to be.
It might mean finding a whole new way to win.
This is a really interesting time for the Steelers, and their decisions are going to have a huge impact for years to come.
It's really something. So as we're talking about this, here's the main question I have. Is Najee Harris a luxury or is he a necessity for the Steelers?
That's the million-dollar question, and only the Steelers can answer it, but you better believe the whole league is watching.
It's going to define their offseason. Yeah. And maybe even their future. Yeah, it really makes you think about the domino effect of this whole thing. I mean, the Steelers' decision on Harris impacts their salary cap. It impacts their draft. It impacts their offensive philosophy.
Oh, for sure. And it sends a message to the whole locker room, too. It's like, are we all in on a workhorse running back, or are we going to go with a more modern approach, using data and all that stuff?
And what about Jaylen Warren? What does this say to him? If they give Harris a huge contract, does he want to be a backup? Does he demand more playing time? Does he ask for a trade?
Yeah, his future's up in the air, too. On the other hand, if Harris leaves, then Warren becomes a key guy. Does he step up? Do the Steelers bring in somebody else to compete with him?
Yeah, it's crazy how much rides on this one decision. We've talked a lot about the strategy and the money and all that.
Yeah, we have.
But there's a human side to all this, too.
Absolutely. I mean, Najee Harris has been the face of the franchise for 4 years now. He's a fan favorite. He's a leader in the locker room. It's not easy to let a guy like that go.
And for him, think about what he's going through. He's at the top of his game. He's earned a big contract. Does he want to stay in Pittsburgh where he's comfortable? Or does he chase the biggest payday, even if it means leaving?
It's a tough spot to be in. You have loyalty on one side and opportunity on the other. Comfort versus ambition.
And sometimes there's no right answer. You have to give something up no matter what you choose.
It's about finding the right fit, what makes the most sense for the player and the team.
And in this case, it's a decision that could change the entire future of the Pittsburgh Steelers.
No doubt about it. It's going to be interesting to see how it all shakes out. Will they go with a proven running back, or will they go in a different direction?
Their decision will tell us a lot about what they're thinking and how they plan to compete over the next few years.
They're at a crossroads, a decision that will impact the franchise for a long time.
So what do you think? What should they do? We've given you a lot to chew on. It's a tough call. Let us know what you think in the comments, and we'll see you back here soon for another deep dive. Thanks for watching.